Welcome to my Orvar, the all-form deck profile, but this ain't no normal Orvar. As you can see here, we're playing with bobbleheads. Orvar he's a bobblehead collector. He's not the all-form anymore. He played Fallout once, he's like, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, great games. And he made that his entire personality. So all he wants to do is collect bobbleheads. Let's get into what Orvar does for people that don't know. So he's a 4-mana 3/3, shapeshifter, changeling, which is cool because he's every creature type, which comes in useful for like one card, maybe two. He has whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if it targets one or more other permanents you control, so not him, create a token that's a copy of one of those permanents. And when a spell or an ability an opponent controls causes you to discard this card, create a token that's a copy of target permanent. That part's not really useful. The first part is what the deck plays around. It's just you're going to cast instants and sorceries. They're going to target your things. You're going to make copies of those things. Unfortunately, you can't make copies of him. Kind of. That'll be the first category we're going over. So this is the clone category, aka I only have one Orvar and he can't copy himself, but maybe. We got Clever Impersonator. When he enters, he enters as a copy of a non-land permanent on the battlefield, aka Orvar, or another card if you want it to be another card. Whatever. If he does enter as Orvar, obviously the Legends rule applies, so we do have a mirror box for that. But next one, Court of Antris. A lot of text. When it enters, you become the Monarch. Woo, everybody loves the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose up to one other target enchantment or artifact. If you're the Monarch, you may create a copy of that token. You may create a token that's a copy of it. If you're not the Monarch, you have Court of Antris become a copy of it, except it still has the Court of Antris ability. So, useful for creating copies every turn. Obviously, mirror box because sometimes you want to dupe Orvar, and he has Legends. So, getting around the Legends rule, pretty useful. Next up, Spark Double. Another way to get around the Legends rule while still having Orvar. You play him, you choose Orvar, you now have two Orvars. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery that targets something, instead of making one clone or copy, you make two. It's crazy. We have the draw. I'm going to go over the dupies and the dupers first because I think that's the most important part of how the deck plays. So obviously we got the bobbleheads. We got all of them, even though some of them are kind of bad. Let's be honest here. They're all interesting when you have a lot of them. So like you can give X target creatures haste, and they can't be blocked except by creatures with haste. And obviously it's always going to be where X is the number of bobbleheads you control. When you have like 20 bobbleheads and you give 20 creatures haste, not bad. Caged Sun. This makes all your dudes really big. All your blue dudes really big. And then whenever a land causes you, specifically, to add one or more mana of the chosen color, which is usually blue, add one additional mana. So if you copy this, your island is suddenly tapping for 3 or 4 mana. It's kind of broken. Especially with a few other cards that are dupers. Charisma Bobblehead is just 1/1 white soldier spam. Coveted Jewel is a really interesting one. Obviously 6 mana, draw 3, tap to add 3, pretty good. The downside being whenever one or more creatures an opponent controls attacks you and aren't blocked, that player draws 3 cards and gains control of Coveted Jewel and untap it. Now, in response to the Coveted Jewel trigger, where it leaves your side of the battlefield or board and goes to an opponent's board, you can use something to flicker it or to create a copy of it somehow with Orvar, and then you still keep a copy and you get the draw 3 again, and it's like, okay, cool, there's no downside to this card except opponents get it, but you still keep it, so who knows. Endurance Bobblehead. X target creatures get +1/+0 and indestructible, where X is the number of bobbleheads you control. Not a great one, probably the weakest one. Good Lotus is just 3 mana of any color. I don't know, it's a great copy artifact choice. So Intelligence Bobblehead, draw X, where X is the number of bobbleheads. This is a good one. Sometimes you draw too many cards though, and it's bad. Luck Bobblehead. Roll an X 6-sided dice, where X is the number of bobbleheads. Create a tap treasure token for each even result. If you rolled exactly 7 6s, you win the game. This card is like hardly ever going to win you the game. I don't know. I think it's overrated, but it is a funny card. Perception Bobblehead is probably the best one in the deck. You tap 3, you look at the top X cards, where X is the number of bobbleheads. You can cast a spell mana value 3 or less from among them without paying its mana cost, which is a lot of, actually I'm pretty sure it's every instant in sorcery that lets you dupe. So you can tap this pay 3 to cast a duper from the top of your deck onto a bobblehead to make another bobblehead. So the next time you do it, you're looking at one more. The deck doesn't, I mean the deck has win cons, but you can just play it as I want a lot of bobbleheads, which is why I originally built this deck. Strength bobblehead, put X1 on the counters on target creature or X the number of bobbleheads you control. Good card. And yeah, that's it. On to the dupers. There aren't that many dupies. I mean, you can duplicate anything in this deck. You can duplicate monsters. You can duplicate lands. I don't know why I said monsters. They're creatures. You can duplicate a fucking Soul Ring if you want it. I don't care. Do whatever you want. You can duplicate the all the enchantments, but that might be hard because there aren't many things that duplicate enchantments. On to the duper cards. So these are the pretty much mainly just cantrips that are you're going to target something, you're going to get a copy of it. That's why you're playing it. Artful Dodge, target creature can't be blocked this turn. This is useful for when you strength bobblehead something really big and then you're like, I don't want it to be blocked. And I don't know, maybe your Orvar is a 24/24 and now he's unblockable until the end of turn. Not bad. Kill through commander damage. Clock spinning. Buyback 3 is nice because you can just pay the extra 3 later on in the game, add it back to your hand. Choose counter on target permanent or suspended card, remove that counter from the permanent or card, or put another of those counters on it. TLDR, you choose something, you choose one of your bobbleheads. You don't have to declare, you have to declare a counter, but it doesn't matter. You can't remove a counter that doesn't exist on a card, so it's like you can untap a card that is already untapped. Distortion Strike gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Can't be blocked this turn. Same thing, except has rebound. Ooh. Dive down. Target creature gets +0/+3 and hexproof until end of turn. This is useful if they try and kill your Orvar because they're scared of you for some reason. In which case you just say, bro, I'm literally playing with bobbleheads. But yeah. Dive down. It's a good protection card. It also makes copies of your other creatures. So it's pretty good. Dream Zip. Tap or untap target permanent. And you can entwine, so you can do both. Doesn't matter because Orvar specifies that even if you target multiple things, you can only copy one of them. Enervate, tap target, tap artifact, creature, land, just another duper. Ghostly Flicker. This flickers, so it's technically better because they also come back in untapped, which is nice, but yeah. Hidden Strings, tap or untap target permanent. Then you can do it again, so you can hit like a land and a bobblehead if you want, or a creature and a bobblehead. Joel, same thing, tap or untap target. There's a pretty big thing just happens with every card here, right? This has buyback 3, which is nice, and you can tap target artifact, creature, land. Specifically tap, but you can tap a tap thing, so you can keep targeting your tap things with that. Museum Skim, target creature you control gets +0/+1 and hexproof until end of turn, or overload 1, which you could do, but yeah. Realistically, this is one of those things where it's like it's a 1 mana duper for creatures, or it's protection for Orvar. Moonlight's target spell or permanent becomes colorless. You can make colorless spells colorless. Wow. More duping for your bobbleheads. Sea Double. This is an interesting one. Can't be copied, which, cool. Choose one if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. You may choose both, which isn't that uncommon in a commander pod, depending on what people are playing and when you're playing this card. You can copy target spell and choose a new target for the copy. Obviously, so you can do it in response to another spell you're casting. Or you can create a token that's a copy of target creature, which is mainly what you're doing it for. But yeah. Shore Up. And obviously, when you create a token, it's going to create another token. So it creates 2. Shore Up. It's just a plus, or it's a buff and a hexproof. Teferi's Time Twist is a flicker effect, similar to Ghostly Flicker, but it comes back at the end of turn. It hits any permanent if its creature's +1/+1. It gets +1/+1 counter, which is nice, but not too important. Thermal Flux. Choose one. Target non-snow permanent becomes a snow permanent. Ooh. Or a snow permanent isn't a snow permanent. So, oh, and you draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So that's useful. But yeah, this is, I mean, it's a duper. Twiddle. I hate the name of this card. Tyrant top target artifact, creature, or land. Unfortunately, it doesn't hit enchantments. A lot of them don't, surprisingly. Maybe not surprisingly. Making like a lot of propaganda is probably pretty annoying for everybody else at the table. Tap or untap target artifact, creature, or land. And then the last one, Vesuvan Duplimancy. When Whenever you cast a spell that targets only a single artifact or creature you control, create a token that's a copy of the artifact or creature, except it's not legendary. This says, hey, you have Orvar, this is Orvar 2 Electric Boogaloo. Good card. Let's go on to the draw cards. So these are all just creatures that you're running. Aether Channeler, you can draw a card. Obviously, you can flicker them as well. Or whenever you do anything, you could tap them. It will make a copy, and then you can choose the effects again. So having good ETBs on smaller creatures is really useful. Forensic Gadgeteer, whenever you cast an artifact spell, investigate, which is nice. Because obviously you cast a lot of artifact spells in the deck. And activate abilities of artifacts you control cost 1 less to activate. Obviously can't reduce down below 1 mana, but that's fine because it means all your bobbleheads that typically cost 3, one of them costs 1, one of them costs 5, all get reduced down to 2 or 4. So it makes it a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier for you to do things. I love Oblivion. This is kind of here for just like, you make a lot of tokens because of Orvar, so it's really easy to get the draw if you only create a token, which you usually do. And hey, 10/10 Eldrazi if you really need it. Muldrifter is a nice one. Similar to how you play Muldrifter in stuff like Flicker or like with Ephemerate, you could just evoke them and on the ETB trigger, Orvar. With Orvar, like twiddling him, I hate that card name, but it's the easiest one to remember. You still keep another Muldrifter, and obviously this one dies, but you're still getting 2 ETBs to draw 2 cards. Or just raw playing for 5, and yeah. Seagate Oracle, this is like a pseudo search. Look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one in the hand and the other on the bottom of your library. So yeah, pseudo search kind of, it only looks top 2, but Storm Chaser Drake is whenever it becomes target of a spell you control, which is useful because you can target your creatures to create copies of them. And he's a 2/1 flyer, you draw a card. So you can make a lot of 2/1 flyers, and while you're doing that, you just get a bunch of cards out of it. Thought Monitor, I do have a bit, I mean, the deck runs a lot of artifacts because you're duplicating them all. So Affinity for Artifacts does fit really, really well into this deck. I want to add more, but I was just kind of looking through cards, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have this, I'll throw it in. One ETB is draw 2. So, and it's 2/2 with flying, so that's nice. Yeah, similar to whole Muldrifter, but yeah. Wavebreak Hippo, whenever you cast your first spell during each of your opponent's turns, draw a card. So that's a little weird, but it is very easy to just hold mana, and like a lot of your dupers are instant, so you can just do it on your opponent's turn. Doesn't really affect when you do it. So yeah, this is just like a little extra value. So if you've been over the dupers, I'll go into the lands quickly. We have Buried Ruin. You can pay 2, sack it to return target artifact or creature from your graveyard to your hand. It's just nice recursion if they get rid of one of your artifacts, or if you're playing against mill and you're milling half your deck. Islands are islands. Mystic Sanctuary, you can bring back something from your grave onto the top of your deck. Pretty useful. Apparently it's banned in Modern and Pauper. That's kind of crazy. Reliquary Tower, you do end up drawing a lot of cards, especially if you're flickering things that draw on ETB. And Riptide Laboratory, this is one of the cards that Orvar actually benefits from. You can pay 1 in the blue, tap it, return target wizard you control to its owner's hand. So if somebody's going to board wipe or do whatever, you can just return it to hand. It's a way of keeping it on the board safe, and it's a land, so not a lot of people will remove it. For the Planeswalkers, Armin Tuzret, I mean, the draw 2, discard 2 unless you discard an artifact, and the other effects are all right. But I'm mainly playing it for the first activated ability of an artifact you activate each turn costs 2 less. So your first Bobblehead costs 1, or costs 3, or whatever, depending on what you're tapping. Arcane Denial, this is removal and protection. Running a few counter spells, and I'm running Lightning Greaves just in case people want to get rid of Orvar, because I like them. The deck kind of revolves around them. It's hard to play the deck when he's not on the board, because I mean, you could tap stuff, but it doesn't do anything. Negate is negate. Venser is one of ETB's return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. And obviously, you can create a copy of this in response to somebody casting something. And then when that ETB's, it can hit the thing on the stack. And then Whelming Wave, return all creatures to their owner's hands except for Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. Good old Changeling. He also has a big tentacle here. But, meh, he's a Changeling. So, for ramp, these are some of the artifacts. It's a lot of just artifact ramp, because I'm like, hey, it's pretty easy to come by, and I had a bunch of it sitting around. Ethereum Sculptor, it's a 2 mana 1/2 with artifacts. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 less. It's nice. Foundry Inspector, same thing. Jesus Sanctum is a nice one. Discounting a lot of your instants and sorceries is really nice. Being able to cast stuff like Hidden Strings for 1 is broken, because you can untap a land and something, and then duplicate that something, and you're going mana even on the ability, at least, if not more. And then when you cast instant or sorcery, scry 1, which is nice. Peregrine Drake, dude, this card is so good in the deck. You pay 1 to do something to it, tap it or untap it, and then you get another one, and then you're untapping 5 lands. So for 1 mana or for 2 mana, you're getting 5 mana back. Really good. Sapphire Medallion, a lot of blue spells in the deck. It's kind of a freebie to include. Soul Ring is Soul Ring, every deck runs it. Solemn Simulacrum, you can flicker it to just keep getting lands, which is really nice, and obviously creating clones that are just blockers that draw you cards is awesome. Onto the Recursion. Obviously there's going to be a decent amount of Recursion because you need to recur the things that tap or untap artifacts and creatures. So the first one here, Archaeomancer. When it enters, return target instant sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. So if you Ghostly Flicker and let's say you hit a land and Archaeomancer, you're then getting another Archaeomancer into play, so you're actually returning 2. And that makes it really easy to, like, alright, your Ghostly Flicker is gone, and it'll bring back Ghostly Flicker and another card. You can do something to create another artifact, and then Ghostly Flicker again with the mana from the Bobblehead that you copied onto the Archaeomancer, bring both back again. It kind of creates a bit of a loop, a bit of a combo maybe. It's technically not infinite, but it's really strong. Argivian Restoration, this is a target artifact from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is just one of the graveyard artifact recursions, because yeah, the deck really suffers against mill, I find. Mnemonic Wall, when it enters, return target instant or sorcery. Reconstruction, artifact to hand. Salvager of Secrets, return target instant or sorcery. Scholar of Ages, this returns 2 target instant or sorceries. It's also 7 mana 3/3, which is why a lot of these big ones, not very good cards, but they have their use here. Scholar of the Lost Trove, this one is when it enters and it's a creature, so it's duplicatable. You may cast target instant or sorcery artifact card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. And then obviously if an instant or sorcery spell is cast this way and would be put in your graveyard, you exile it, so it's essentially giving it flashback. Doesn't do anything with the artifacts, which means you do just get to bring back your artifacts whenever you make a copy of this guy. Shipwrecked Dowser is just, yeah, when it enters, turn target instant or sorcery. It also has prowess, which is useful. Onto the tutors, there's 2 of them. There's Fabricate, which is just a great artifact tutor. Search your library for an artifact, put it into your hand. And Loyal Inventor, which is dirt cheap. I don't know why. When it enters, you may search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, and shuffle. Put that card into your hand if you control an assassin, otherwise put that card on top of your library. Even putting it on top of your library for a 3 mana 2/3 is just good. I think it has Vigilance, so he's a safe swing. Obviously Orvar is a shapeshifter, or a changeling, so he is an assassin. You do just get it to hand. But I mean, still being able to tutor to top a deck is very powerful. Especially for, like, I don't know, for being a 35-cent card. But Dramatic Reversal, this is kind of just in the deck, because when you make a lot of artifacts that all tap for mana, because all the bobbleheads tap for mana, you can do some pretty broken things. On the sideboard, these are cards I used to run, but don't run anymore. Augur of Bolus, I actually still run the deck. I don't know what's in the sideboard. I don't know what's in my deck that's not. Yeah. Augur of Bolus, though, when it enters, look at the top 3, reveal instant or sorcery, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library. I played this earlier today. I missed an Augur of Bolus search 3 times. Didn't feel good. A Zombie Lady of Scrolls I used to run for the just tap and untap wizard. Obviously, you can make a lot of copies of wizards on the board. A lot of your cards are actually wizards. Yeah, Seagate Oracle is, I don't think, yeah, Aether Channeler. A lot of the Recursion ones are too. An Archaeomancer is. A Mnemonic Wall is not. Salvager of Secrets, Scholar of Ages, Scholar of the Lost Trove is not. Shipwrecked Dowser, though, is. So yeah, it can tap a lot of the deck for draw card. Brawl's Expertise was the card I was just temporarily running. Return up to 3 target artifacts and or creatures to their owner's hands, which is useful because obviously if you target one of your things when Orvar is on the board, you make a copy of it. And then you may cast a spell with mana value 4 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So you could target one of your bobbleheads, for example. Orvar is going to make a copy of it. It's going to return to hand, and then Brawls can then just play it. So it's like making a copy of it for free, except for 5 mana. And you bounce 2 other things, which technically not very mana efficient when unsummon happens, or when that's around. Displace, exile up to 2 target creatures you control. This is when I was running more creatures, I was focusing more on that. I didn't have the bobbleheads at the time, which is weird, so I was just running like Affinity Flicker. It was probably a better deck than what it is now, but whatever. I want to make bobbleheads. So yeah, not just going to flicker 2 creatures. Helm of the Host is one I just want to run. I don't have one on me right now. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of a creature. There's just a way to get a lot of Orvars. Cap Cannoneer, Shadow Affinity Staple. When it or another artifact you control enters, put a 1/1 counter on it. It's, yeah, I don't know. It's a 6 mana 4/4 with improvise. You can have your 4 Solemn Simulacrums tap for it. One revealed, Island Cycling, draw 3. I don't know, it's just a staple card. So using a Noble taps to add a colorless that you can only use to cast colorless spell or activate an ability. Obviously, all your bobbleheads are colorless, so I thought this would be a good card. It's not a right card, but realistically, there are just better cards for the deck. Serum Visionary is just enter, draw 1, scry 2, so it's a useful draw card. Shimmer Dragon can tap your artifacts to draw cards, which is useful. And if you have 4 more artifacts, he has Hexproof, which is pretty useful. And then Whirly Rogue, you can tap 2 untapped artifacts to give a creature unblockable this turn, or it can't be blocked. But yeah, how many enters you create 2? 1/1 color Slopters. It just works into the whole affinity thing. Onto the Maybe Boy. These are cards that you could run, but I'm not running either because I don't like them or I just didn't want to buy them or I don't have them. This should not be on there. Case the Ransack Lab, though, you end up casting a lot of spells, especially when you have buyback, and you can bounce things or return things from grave to hand. So yeah, this is very easy to solve. Emery is a artifact recursion card, essentially. Harbinger of the Sea is just a hate card, non-basics or islands, which doesn't affect you at all, but affects opponents most of the time. Hullbright Core is just a great value card. I feel like this card can be run in a lot of blue decks that just play spells, or any deck that runs blue that plays a lot of instants and sorceries. Actually, this just says cast a spell, so yeah. I don't know, this card's just broken. Lier just gives everything you trash in your graveyard flashback, which is really nice. That's all it's really used for in case you don't have the recursion cards and you need to keep doing your stuff. Narset's a general anti-draw hate card. It's good in a lot of decks because a lot of people just draw a lot. People love drawing in Magic, which I understand. Odra Pack, whenever you cast a sorcery spell, it gains rebound, which is pretty much why you're playing it. Obviously, it does have the Odra thing of when it dies, it comes transformed, and you can do that. Yeah, you're playing it for rebound. Propaganda is a good card because obviously, if people are just going to go after you and you're like, no, please, I'm just making bobbleheads, it helps them not go after you. Sakushima is a great card. It's a Orvar lover. That's a weird thing to say, but yeah, no, it's like Spark Double and enters as Orvar. Simulacrum Synthesizer, this card is giga broken. I don't know why they ever printed this card. I hate this card. It would be insane in this deck, but it costs $28 and I don't want to spend that much money on a deck that I don't want to win with, and I just want to make bobbleheads. Yeah. Swiftfoot Boots, it's similar to Lightning Greaves, except it costs 1 to equip. It's the only difference in Hexproof and Shroud, which actually does matter if you want to target like a Spark Doubled Orvar that maybe if they somehow both have Shroud. 3 Steps Ahead is a counterspell, but it's also a created token that's a copy target artifact or creature you control, so it creates 2 copies. Yeah, that's it. If you have any recommendations for this deck, or any planeswalkers you want me to look at, go ahead. I think going over the EDH rec things just quickly, because it's been almost 25 minutes. Dazzling Denial is a sick card, and obviously he's a bird, so it's a pretty good counterspell. You can play Signet, but I think there's enough mana artifacts. Good card, but I think it has enough draw. You could play more of the other older instants that are like change a land type, except I don't care about duplicating lands because I think you don't really need it, especially later on in the game or if you have Caged Suns on board. I mean, Leap and Shadow Rift for creatures, sure. Tap target permanent works fine. Whim of Volrath, what the hell is it? Change the text on target permanent by replacing all this as a one color. I mean, yeah, go for it, you know? There's so many old cards that say stuff like change the color of a card with another color. I mean, Dan to Dan is built on that, on those cards, but like, or Dan Dan, not Dan to Dan, that's an anime. Point being, yeah. Also, Academy Ruins, I believe it's called, is a great artifact recursion card that you can play. Ristic Studies, sure, dude, why not? Yeah, I don't know. There's so many good cards that you can play in this deck, and if you want to go towards more of a creature strategy, you can really force your way into like an artifact thing or an affinity thing going on. Obviously, all the tutors, Mystic Tutor, Spellseeker, bunch of great cards. You could play Locust Lands too, and copy all your Locust Lands, and then you'll have Cloud Posts tapping for 5 mana, which is interesting. Not something I really cared about doing. But yeah, I mean, you can play Brainstorm if you want. You can play Cloud of Fairies. It does the same thing as Peregrine Drake, but not as big. There's so many great cards for this deck that, like, going through it's like, yeah, you could play that, you could play that, you could play that. It's really up to you. This is obviously just my list. There's probably optimizations and stuff to make. But yeah, that's the list. I think this deck is very fun. Obviously, it's pretty casual. You can make it pretty competitive. Obviously, not CDH level stuff because it's very slow. Unless you just added a lot more counter spells and stuff. But like being able to, like, you do have some win cons if you want to just Charisma Bobblehead and make, like, I don't know, 31-1 white soldiers. And then you Endurance Bobblehead to make them all 2-1s with Indestructible. And then you'd use Agility Bobblehead to make them all unblockable except if the creature has haste. That's a win con. Same with Strength Bobbling, like your commander, make them unblockable. There are win cons in the deck. Obviously, you don't. I don't necessarily play for them. That's not why I designed the deck. I designed it because I wanted to make a lot of bobbleheads. It turns out when you have a lot of bobbleheads, the bobbleheads are decent cards. Besides Luck Bobblehead, I don't know. This card is kind of bait. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any commanders you want me to cover. I have one that's been cooking for like 3 weeks now that it's still got some time left in the oven, but when it's coming out, people are going to be like, what the fuck are you playing? And I'm like, oh. Is it good? Probably not, but we'll find out. So yeah, thank you for watching. See you next week. Sorry about not uploading last week. I was just kind of busy, and then I didn't really know what to upload. But yeah, goodbye.